All right, guys, Zach Evanish here. We're going to be doing a Strong Life Instagram Live. Sean Waxman from Waxman's Gym out on the West Coast, California. So we're going to wait for Sean to roll through. Joe, what's up, buddy? You guys should be following Coach Joe Strong, Varsity House Gym. A lot of great training, great business, great guys. Let's prop this sucker up. Okay, good to see everybody. Peace, love, and meat in the house. Don Ricky, nice. Great, guys. Very good. Good to see a lot of good people. I do think that we are going to hit a wall with all these Instagram lives and Zoom calls. I really do. I don't know how long people are going to handle it for. Okay, Sean's coming in, guys, so here we go. And let's go. All right, Sean should be. I'm at my gym. It's good stuff. Just waiting on Sean. Then we're going to rock the house. Oh, Sean, got to do that again. Guys, thanks for coming in. Fires me up to see a lot of good faces here. There we go. Stuff's a pain in the ass. Coach Joe is the man. Yes, agreed. Sean, do another request to join me because when I invited you in, it was declined. All right, brother? Newsletters are on point. No bad days. Thanks, brother. Yeah, guys, get on over to zachstrength.com. Get the free bodyweight bodybuilding intro course. And then you're on the newsletters. You're going to be fired up. Fired up like crazy. All right, so just waiting on Sean to request to jump in. There we go. I'm adding him right now, and that should work. And when these go, which says waiting for Sean Waxman. When these go good, I pull the audio and just get them over on the Apple podcast, Strong Life podcast. It keeps saying the Sean Waxman declined. All right, Sean, let's try this one. There we go. Go live. All right, bro, let's make it happen. People's strength coach. Very good. A lot of good people rolling through. Guys, just hang tight. We'll get going here with Sean. If not, I'm going to have Sean go live, and I'll request to go in on his video. Follow me for a year, come out to the Midwest. Yeah, dude, if I do any traveling, I always announce it through Instagram and my newsletter. It's just a matter of people keeping up with the information I put out. Most people are unable to keep up. All right, Sean Waxman, come on, bro. Let's make it happen. Aziz. Waiting for the Sean Waxman. Gabriel in the house. I might shut it down for a moment, guys. Anthony, thanks for getting the Underground Strength Manual. I might shut it. There we go.
So sometimes me and technology, you know.
You're getting killed. You're getting killed by the technology, Waxman.
Yeah.
All right, bro. Listen, where are you at again in California? What's the location?
I'm in Los Angeles, specifically Lawndale, which is like 10 minutes from LAX airport.
Cool.
South
Man,
End.
years ago, I had these two guys. They took a red eye to my gym to do the cert, and I felt like they had maybe connected with you. I'm talking 10 years ago. I think it was called The Cave.
Oh, yeah, Z.
Yeah, Z, two Israeli guys.
Yeah.
Yes, they were great. And their gym literally was a cave. It was like very unique. And I can't recall, I kind of lost touch with these guys. What happened to them?
Z moved to Florida. So I did all that coaching education.
Yeah.
How to lift and all that stuff. So he moved to Florida with his brother. They own a sunglass company.
It's interesting, man. So, you know, first, I gave people a little bit of background about you. Been a weightlifting coach for I don't know how 2+ decades now.
Long time. Strength conditioning is where I started.
Okay, let's talk
Uh,
about it. Where did you? Because you're an East Coast guy. Where were you? Brooklyn?
Brooklyn and then Queens. So my
Yep.
parents still live in Queens. I did most of my training in Queens. At,
Okay.
and I had mentioned on a couple of the posts, there was two gyms that I pretty much old school, old school. Ferrigno's, which is not anything to do with Lou Ferrigno, and this place called Diamonds Health Club, 24-hour place in the middle of the warehouse district in Whitestone, Queens.
It
And
must have been amazing.
man, it was like they had like two shifts. They had like cops. It was weird. It was like cops and criminals in the afternoon and factory workers at night. It was it was crazy.
That's what a lot of gyms kind of had these, like there was a different crew coming by during like the different hours. So during the day, there would be a lot of cops who were doing shift work, maybe truck drivers.
Right, right,
Then in
right.
the afternoon and evening, you had a mix of everybody. You did have criminals, you had the druggies, but it was like this mutual respect.
Everybody
And
cared, man. The
it,
iron, the iron. That's what
yes, it was like, hey, we're all here to train. And Marty Gallagher wrote about a gym in D.C. I think it was Chalet's gym, Mark Chalet's gym, where he said like they had like undercover cops and gangsters going through, and he's like, basically the guy would lift up a towel, you'd put your guns under the towel, and then he'd put your stuff in a milk crate, and so everybody was equal in training. And craziness. What's interesting too, Sean, was like, I guess, 80s and 90s, people really respected strength, even the wrong people, like even the guys that were doing, bad stuff,
Right.
like they respected strength. Whereas we've certainly gotten to this crazy point with the internet where just people want all these kind of tricks and shit. And I was listening to Marty Gallagher did a podcast with Ed Cohn. They must have recorded it Friday, and they're just talking about how effective 5 sets of 5 is and how effective it is to just work up to one hard set. Yeah.
Most people never so I think people have gravitated towards other things other than hard work on a barbell. For the hard work on a barbell, I mean, you've been doing this as long as I have, is tough.
Yep.
And I haven't found many athletes who need more than that. Right? They don't train. They don't take that to the point in which it's ineffective.
Yep.
Look, I'm 51. I've been lifting probably 39 years, 38 years.
Yep.
I haven't come across a need other than like physical, like I can't do something because my knee's fucked up or my shoulder's fucked up.
Right.
Other than that, I haven't felt the need to do anything exotic.
When I make a change, it's more because of like mentally I crave something different. And I'll tell you what's so interesting is last year I was working at a school, and sometimes it would take me 90 minutes to get there. I worked at the school. So I was like, all right, I had a lunch and a prep back to back. I would go to the local gym that was next to my original underground. And I remember like going through like a long warm up of some machines and this and that just to get the blood pumping. And then when I left, I was like, dude, I did not start sweating until I started deadlifting and squatting. But I did all this other shit. And I remember like I wrote about it the next day. I was like, you could be working as hard as you want on these machines, but you've got to get the bar in your hands. You got to put it on your back. And you, of course, as we're getting older, you just got to keep finding ways to continue working with the barbell. And I always forget that you're in your 50s because you look young, and I feel like the strength work, it gives us a younger look. A month before this quarantine, so that would have been 2 months ago, I went into like a Walgreens or something. I can't remember what the heck I was buying, but the lady was like an older lady, and she was like, are you buying this for your girlfriend? Because you look like you're too young to be married. I was like, I'm 44. I've been married a long time now. but she must have thought, I guess she thought I was like 20 something years old. And it just hit me. I was like, man, training is the fountain of youth.
It is, man. It's a stress reducer. It's it's a behavioral modifier. I'll tell you, when I was training as a weightlifter in the '90s, I got into trouble. I was a wild guy, and got into some crazy situations. But at the end of the day, at 2:30 when it was time to train, regardless of what was going on, I had to leave wherever I was going, whatever I was into. I had to stop at 1:30 and drive to training because it took me about an hour to get there.
Who was your weightlifter?
Bob Tucano.
Oh wow, legend.
Yes. So I actually came out to California to train with him and to study biomechanics with John Garhammer at Long Beach State for my master's.
It's so interesting that in the 90s you were weightlifting, because I didn't know about Olympic weightlifting. I didn't know about weightlifting until, early 2000s. And I've shared the story about how in the summer of 1989, I was in Israel, and the Romanian weightlifting coach flipped out on me. And I would say, if you don't know the story, I'm going to do the quick story for you.
Yeah.
So, do you know Istvan Yavorek? Of course, Javorek complexes. So, Coach Javorek is from Romania. My dad's from Romania, and so my dad moved to Israel, I think, 11 years old, 13 years old, something like that. And so every couple of years we go back to Israel to see my mom and dad's parents, my grandparents. And it's the first summer I'm lifting, and it's the summer of 1989. My brother's 2 years older than me, so he was bent into weights. There's no gym in this little town in Israel, so I'm complaining to my grandfather, if I don't train, all this muscle I've gained is going to disappear. I was 122, 125 pounds the summer before high school. So he tells me about this guy in town called Andre, they called him Andre the Giant. It wasn't the wrestler. They just called this guy Andre the Giant. So Andre's last name was Holzer. And he was Coach Javorek's teammate for the Romanian junior weightlifting team before communism. Long story short, we go to this guy's house, and in Israel, it's like a flat. You have the upstairs and the downstairs. The downstairs, instead of bedrooms, was weights. So there was a bedroom had the universal machine. Another bedroom had lat pull down and the big barbells. And then Andre was in the corner, and all he had was a squat stand. The roof or the ceiling was cut out so he could go overhead. And then the floors had he cut them, and then he put tires this way so he could drop the weights. So I'm 13. I've never seen weightlifting. I've seen Flex Magazine. I've seen Muscle and Fitness. He's killing the weight. And I remember him lifting, and it reminds me of Ilya Ilyin, so clean, everything looked beautiful. He was doing split jerks very fast. So he sees me doing a barbell row wrong. And it's just me and my brother, and a few people had trickled in, to his house.
Yeah.
You pay whatever money my grandfather and father paid, and he screams at me. I was hunched over, bent, all doing it wrong. He screams at me, and then the number of people in the gym, they just stop. It was going into when the movies, you go into the club and the record stops. Dude, everybody just stopped. He screams at me in Romanian. Then he comes over and demonstrates the row, but he demonstrates rowing to the neck, not to the stomach.
Oh, okay.
Screams at me. I leave. I'm so scared. I'm upset. So I go out of the house. I go across the street. I'm on somebody else's front lawn. A few minutes later, there's a dozen guys from the gym trying to speak English. They're come back. He won't make you cry. And I'm I'm not crying. I'm trying to fight it. So we get back. My grandfather picks me up with my dad. My grandfather's reaming me out in the car. He's telling me I am an embarrassment. I don't listen to the coach. How will I expect to get anything? And I always say, like, Andre never offered, never was like, you want to learn to train, you show up here. He didn't offer. He just trained and everybody else did their thing.
Right.
And I always say, man, if he would have trained me in weightlift, I had been training for maybe 6 weeks, but I fell in love with it. If he would have trained me twice a day for those 3 weeks, it would have changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Sure.
And so I tell this story to Coach Jaworek in like 2010. We're at the Wake Forest, North Carolina Strength Coach Clinic with Donnie Thompson.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because he hears me talking to my father. He's like, who is Abba? I go, Abba's my father. That's how you say, Dad in Hebrew.
Yeah, in Hebrew, yeah.
Yep. So he's like, where Evanesh? Where's that from? I go, oh, my father's from Romania. He's like, I am from Romania. I'm like, oh, wow, I got to tell you this story. I tell him the story, and I tell him the guy is like kind of very light-skinned, reddish blonde hair, shoulders look like coconuts, his sweeping quads. And he's like, oh, my God, that is my old teammate. I have not seen my teammate since I was 19 years old.
Oh!
So it's something like if at the time he was 60, we're talking like 45 years. So my father, family in the military, he had friends who were in Israeli intelligence, this and that. They finally get a hold of Andre. And we get the phone number to Coach Jaworek a couple of years ago. Coach Jaworek emailed me. He says, I called him. Once he said hello, I knew it was him. And so he said, like, he was like a rebellious lifter. He was so strong, the Russians feared him, but he also was not a good listener to the coaches. They would, like, he didn't want to listen to them, so he wanted to kind of do his own thing. But, man, he was a savage. He was destroying that little corner, and all he had was a set of silver squat stands. He had his bumpers, and, like, he had the roof cut out and the floor cut out. And 1989, bro, I still remember it.
That's great.
I know, so crazy. So tell me about your early days. So you're training at these kind of bodybuilding gyms. Where was the segue into strength and conditioning? Who did that for you? Or how did that happen?
Me, because always had this crazy curiosity, right, about. So I'd watch my dad and his friend Raul. They made a gym in the basement of our apartment building, and it was like a rec room, like an empty room in a basement. So they rented it, and they set up a gym. So it had a bench that they're both construction workers, right? So they're both handy. So they built a bench, they built a lat pole. I don't know if there was a squat rack, because there might have been I think there was a statue that had to be a squat rack, like made out of either like lumber or they welded. I don't know. I mean, it was just all homemade equipment. And I was young, like young, like 9, 10 years old. So this is like it's still in the 70s. So my dad would bring me down, and there was a desk in the back. And he'd sit me on the desk, and they would go at it and, bullshit and all that stuff. And then, of course, you're a kid, it's your dad, right? So I wanted to start doing stuff.
Yeah.
My dad got me a pair of iron boots. Remember the iron boots?
Yes.
So we went to this. There was a place in Brooklyn called was it Marcy? Not Marcy. I can't think of the name of the. I'll call my dad after this, and I'll text you the name of the place. It was one of the only like equipment supply places in
was
all.
it
in all
Dan Laurie or no?
Dan Laurie, son of a bitch.
Yeah, there's so many people selling all of that vintage equipment, so I'm seeing a lot of Dan Laurie equipment.
That was like,
yeah.
It was like a toy store. I remember they had these containers in the back, right? And they stored a lot of their metal weights. And never forget, when you open it up, it smelled like oil, right? So you had to oil all the plates, or else they would rust. There, you get me a pair of. That's where they would get all their weights. So my dad got me a pair of iron boots, and he sat me on the desk, and I would just mess around with the iron boots. I would lift them over my hands, and I strap them to my feet, and I do all kind of stuff. And then finally, I kept on bothering my dad. I was like, Dad, I want to lift weights. I want to lift weights. So he got me a set for my house. We lived in an apartment, you know, and got me like a universal set, you know, with the sand, with the concrete weights and the whole thing. So like first day I have it, you know, I put all the weight on there as I can. I set the standards up, you know, high enough to squat. You know, I'd never done a squat in my life. So I figured I'm going to put all the, I don't know how much it was. And then I go down and the weight just falls into the floor, breaks the floor. And we live on the 5th floor, you know. So like that, no more. And he got me, there was a gym that opened up the block from us, this Ferrigno's, and I could walk there or drive my bike. And he took me there, and he bought me a membership. And he didn't even really know that he was putting me into the belly of the beast, because this is in the 80s now, and right in the middle of like the drug era. I mean, it was nuts. There was no drug testing, and drugs were just starting.
Yeah, and I think steroids were not really. I don't know if they were illegal.
They weren't
yet.
illegal.
In the early 80s.
Yeah, Nancy Reagan, with her just say no. Classified steroids as a class 3 drug. So overnight they went. Overnight they became like at this place, and I never seen in my life. No women at that point. You know, women weren't really lifting weights, at least in those kind of gyms. But these dudes were like dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think Ferrigno was making equipment with his dad in the 70s, 80s. So it must have been somehow affiliated with them.
I'm sure it was.
You know, Brian Moss, who's the big photographer for all the bodybuilding, he owned Better Bodies Gym in the late 80s, 90s. He said that's where he picked up his first equipment. He drove a van to Brooklyn and bought it from Matty Ferrigno. And
No, that was back in the day. So I'm sure there was some relationship somewhere.
Relation. There is a book out on Dan Laurie. I'm gonna have to buy it. I've seen it floating around on Amazon. Have to buy it. You hear me? Sean, I don't hear your volume. No volume? Let's try it again. Let me see. I'm going to just type something here. This is Instagram. This is the tough thing with Instagram Live. No volume. So let's try this. Sorry, guys, for those of you guys watching. Yeah, no volume on my end. You want to try going again? We'll try. I'm going to close out and try again. All right, guys, I'll be right back with all of this. Okay, so I'm going to try that. Remove, and then I'm going to try to add Sean Waxman again. Let me try that, guys. Okay, here we go. Gets a little bit tricky, but hang in there, guys. And we're talking about some iron history. There we go, bro. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right, so if that happens, I'll just kind of bump you out and redo that again. So,
no problem.
So you joined Ferrigno's gym.
Yeah, and
amazing.
You know, I'm by myself. I'm just, you know, I'm watching I had this routine. So like you walk in, and to the right was the desk, and then all along the right wall was the squat racks.
How many squat racks? How big was the gym?
Small. I don't mean. So it had the main room, and that was it, and then a bathroom.
This was the normal mom and pop style gym, especially, you know, Brooklyn and New York. They had all those like vitamin shops that was owned by pro bodybuilders. And, you know, Joe Weider in the 60s was in Union City, which is near Hoboken, which is near New York City. And so, yeah, man, it's the East. This New York area was a big mecca for the bodybuilders.
it was so this is before guns, right? No one had a gun back then, right? So I think like walking around the street, it was like I call it peacocking, right? So the guys that were, when the peacock wants attention or like they want to scare somebody away, they spread their feathers, right? So they get really big. So like I would notice, guys that were big didn't get messed with.
Yep.
And it was a pretty tumultuous time in New York City, during the '80s. So, I wasn't, I wasn't a gangster. I mean, I was an athlete. I handled myself, but I wasn't a guy that looked for crime and things like that. But shit, you got to be able to handle yourself because I mean, you can't be a punk.
Yep.
So I was like, screw it. If I can lift weights and get strong, I wanted to do it for two reasons. To first be a better athlete, because I started to get like bigger, stronger, faster, and I saw the strongman and weightlifting on TV.
Yep.
And I just saw these guys. I remember seeing Stefan Furlholm and I was like, oh my God, so before then I had the bodybuilding magazines. And I looked at those guys and I thought it was great, but that's not really how I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a statue. I wanted to be like this machine. And I would watch like Kazmaier and Stefan Furlholm and some of the weightlifting stuff. And I was like, man, I want to be like those guys. So I was like, I just want to lift heavy weights. So I started to just lift heavy weights, and I did powerlifting for a little while. Did all right, did pretty good, and then that was my mode of training. Really, I would do a lot of powerlifting style training, and then a lot of running, jumping. I was experimenting with plyometrics and dragging shit, throwing shit, and
where did you come across some of that stuff the first time? So
I was an avid reader, so there was a library back in the day when you had to go to the library.
That's right.
So there was a library in my neighborhood, New York Borough Library. So I would drive my bike there, and there was I would just pick books and read them, and then there was a section, a training, like a physical fitness. I don't know what they would call it, but it was a tiny section, but it was really tall. So it was like a really tall section, and it had other things in there too. So I saw this box it was a magazine box. You could recognize it. The way at the top. So I got one of those ladders and I climbed up and I took the box out, and it had like Strength and Health, all the old timey magazines, and it had a couple of copies of the Soviet Sports Review.
Oh.
And I still have this. So I took it down. I was like, wow. So right on the cover, it was like hand drawn. It was crazy. It had like people jumping and lifting weights and all that stuff. I'm like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. Because all the magazines are like, bodybuilding. And
sure.
I opened this magazine. The first page, it was an article on weightlifting. And all hand drawn. I'll take a picture of it and I'll show it to you.
Yes.
I didn't really understand what I was reading because it's a scientific journal, really, translated to English. But I was captivated by it. So I stole it. I put it under my shirt.
I have never done that.
And I stole it. I'm 13, I think. I'm 13 years old. It's the only thing I ever stole in my life, man.
Me too.
Crazy. And,
I have to admit it.
I sat down for months with that book and a dictionary. Right, and I wrote down. So I had a pad, and I wrote down all the words that I knew, and then the words that I didn't, I looked them up, and I just inserted the definition into what I wrote plus the words that I knew.
Yeah,
and I just tried, and from that document created my curiosity for using the barbell to improve performance. And then I looked through, and there was people, and I started to get like. Then I found Bigger, Faster, Stronger. Bigger, Stronger, whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever's not Mark's company. I forget what.
Yeah, I always confuse the two of them as well.
And then I never forget this. I saw a picture of Barry Sanders in high school doing a power clean, and I said, "Fuck." I mean, I was in high school. I was just before high school, so I was, keeping track of who's doing what in high school. And then I said, oh, Bigger, Faster, Strong. I got the magazine. It came out quarterly. And then every month, and the first issue they had was an article on Ken Patera.
Oh,
And I was like, oh. I was like, I can't believe got that strong. I said, that's what I want. And I saw Ken Patera and Stefan Furlholm and all these, and Bill Kazmaier and all these guys. Mike Webster was, like they would mention him about, lifting weights
yeah.
and all those guys. They look like men. Like they look like the kind of man that I wanted to be.
Truth. Yep.
Not like tight, not like the bodybuilding, like statue type, but these were guys that,
They were rugged.
Rugged.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm like that, no one's ever going to mess with me, and I'm going to
Yes.
kill people on the football field.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I never.
It's all about coming across the right stuff, and sometimes
it's luck.
Yeah, sometimes it's luck, being in the right place at the right time, and that's why I wonder. Like, there's actually a kid near. I'm in a real small town, and he's a senior, but schools are closed for the rest of the school year, so he's going to go play D1 football. And I came across him. I was looking for stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to buy equipment." And so he drove to Pennsylvania. He bought himself a keg and like 2 tractor tires. And then I saw him like dumbbell benching on the cement, 100 pounds for 20 reps. I was like, this guy, he came across the right stuff.
Right.
And so most kids are trying to just curl and do a couple crappy sets of benching unless they come across the right. It depends who their hero is. Who, like you're talking about Mike Webster, Kenny Patera. Those guys were savages. So, you've owned a weightlifting gym, weightlifting club for a long time, and we chatted that you want to try to transition into more of the strength and conditioning athlete arena. What's making you think like that, and what's the next step?
Yeah, so I had a really successful strength and conditioning gym. I opened it up in 2001. And it wasn't my own place. I was renting a space out of Rico Chappelle's gym.
Wow, what's he do? He's in Vegas now. Wait.
Oh no, he's Rico.
Oh, yes. I'm thinking, my bad. Rico is a national champ from Iowa. I was thinking of a different. Yeah, so I actually spoke with Chad Zapatiel, his old.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. So Chad was Chad was the other owner.
Raw, right? Real American Wrestling.
Raw. Yeah. So I got in there, and I became like the in-house strength and conditioning guy for them.
Early, this was when I started getting into MMA, but except it was called NHB, no holds barred fighting.
Right.
They didn't really call it MMA, and jiu-jitsu was called grappling because a lot of wrestlers were entering. And so, by the way, Rico it's like you can't even find anything much about him online. He's like still lays low, and Chad said he's still coaching fighters.
Yep. Yeah, Rico was one of the best coaches that I've ever seen in any sport. And, I had the luxury of, for 7 years, I would watch him coach, fighters practice. So we had, all the Randy Couture and, all the guys came through Raw because Rico was the guy.
Right.
And, I really was fortunate to watch him work. He's a complicated dude. We all have our stuff. But
all elite athletes, we all have like, for example, I am actually very hard to work with. Like, it's very hard for my coaches to work with me. I have a few people that I'm allowing to come into the gym. If I see like a crumb on the floor or the weight not put away, I take a photo, I text it to them. I know it's not the right thing to do. I shouldn't do it. But I'm just like, I'm not hiding the fact that I'm type A, and just respect this shit, and I'm not going to dance around it anymore. I don't care that people think it's wrong, because I think excellence, just do it in everything. Not that people are trying to screw the place up, but look,
you're defending the culture of the gym.
That's it. That's all of it is. So you started you're in Raw, Real American Wrestling, but it's MMA guys. And these guys were fighting in Pride and all of this.
Yep.
And then what was the transition? Are you feeling like you want to get back to that?
For 7 years, and it was really. I worked with MMA guys and a lot of high school volleyball, baseball, football. That area, South Bay, big sport community. So I was coaching a little bit of weightlifting. I was coaching a guy from Argentina, weightlifting wise, and he was doing real well. And then Rico and I had a falling out, and then I left Raw and then opened up my own place. I mean, it was time for me anyway to open up my own place, and I started it as strength and conditioning. I just continued what I was doing just in my own place, and then a weightlifting coach. I'm sure you heard of Mike Bergman.
Yeah.
He reached out to me, and he was a rival coach in the Southern California area, and he reached out to me. He says, "Man," he says, "you got to come check out this CrossFit because they're paying me a ton of money to teach weightlifting." He says, "I've never seen." And at the time in the country, there's 2 paid weightlifting coaches, full-time weightlifting coaches in the country, and those are the 2 national team coaches.
Yeah, there was
a way to.
Mike was, those early 2000s of CrossFit. Mike was a phys ed teacher.
Yep.
Teaching with, that's how I came across Mike, is the early CrossFit forum. Mike would show videos. It wasn't even on YouTube. You had to I don't even know how they were hosted, but you would see 8, 12, 15 squat racks, and he was teaching kids clean and jerk, squats, and then running obstacle courses. And I remember I was like, that is physical education.
Well, he's a Marine, he's a Marine, old school.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Mike, Mike taught weightlifting to his PE classes. He would bring 50 kids to a meet. I mean, it was crazy.
It is.
So Mike said, "You got to come check this out. I'll introduce you to Coach Glassman and Dave Castro and Dave Budding, all the guys who the early CrossFit guys." And then I went to the second CrossFit Games at the ranch, at Dave Castro's ranch.
Yeah. And
I walked in there, and there was 20 people. There was an event. It was like a clean and jerk or something like that. Big area, roped off, rubber mats on the dirt. About 20 people doing clean and jerks, and I had never seen 20 people in my life in one room doing clean and jerks before. That includes meets. And I hung out with Mike. I met John Welborne that weekend. He actually competed.
Yeah.
And I was flabbergasted that here it is. And I had this dream. I had this dream in college about owning a weightlifting gym. But there was no way I could do it because, I couldn't support myself.
Right.
So on the drive, it was like a 3-hour drive to Aromas, California. On the way back, I made the decision I was gonna stop doing strength and conditioning and just do weightlifting, because I figured now is the time I can make money doing it.
True.
And plus, no one else was doing it.
Yeah, there's no competition. And look, I always tell people, when I started the strength and conditioning, people had never seen that. People were calling me, they're like, "You train with those kettlebells, those cowbells." They didn't know what it was even called. They saw battle ropes and they were blown away. Everything was so shock. I mean, I still remember Mike Guadango did a box jump.
Yeah.
Joe DeFranco posted it and people were like, "Oh my God, he just did a box jump." Now it's everybody's doing that. And so from a business sense, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of competition. And nobody was doing weightlifting because it's hard and it's hard to make money.
Yep.
But it was what I was passionate about, and I'm, for better or for worse, I follow my passion, which doesn't always lead to me making money.
Look, it's true. Even my wife and I have this conversation with kids. I'm very passionate, and it makes things. It interferes with you don't want to, within business, you don't want to make emotional decisions.
Right.
That's not really good. And so, Greg at Catalyst, he said, "Look, man, I had this big weightlifting gym," and he's like, "I've got predominantly, 38 is the average age," and he's like, "I want to just train weightlifters." And eventually, he shut it down and organized it, but he had the online aspect going. I think a lot of people don't really grasp that.
No.
right now people are thinking, oh, I'm going to go all online. And I'm saying, listen, you have a lot of online members right now because your gym members can't go to anywhere else. So
Right.
this is not like a legitimate test of if you're going to survive, or forget survive, thrive online with the online business. But when we open back up, boom, I'm getting right back to business, training the athletes. What's your plan now? What are you thinking with the gyms, or with the gym?
Well, as far as our gym goes, my manager and I are this week, we're sitting down and we're going to figure out a process on when they say, okay, you can reopen.
Sure.
So I don't know what that looks like yet for my gym, but we're gonna discuss it, and we're gonna have a plan, and then we'll do it. I mean, I don't know if it requires people to wear masks or not wear masks. I have a big enough place where we can spread everybody out. Not a problem. I mean, it's safer in my gym than it is, waiting in line at the grocery store.
Look, 100%. Also, I'll remind you later, but my buddy who was just on, Coach Joe Strong, him and his partner, they own a gym. They're on the board of New Jersey, New York. They have been doing a Zoom call every Friday. You should hop on that because they're sharing all of the.
I would love that.
Yeah, so you and your manager should hop on because they're talking about the changes they're going to make, because they have adult classes for fitness. They have athlete strength and conditioning. I think business-wise, that's the best deal because your adults are more consistent, whereas the athletes were always working around their clubs and their high school. It's, it's pretty.
We've had that conversation before, how frustrating that is.
Right. It's frustrating, and that's why you need to train adults, or you've got to really crush the online aspect during that daytime. But I think then, that's kind of what I do. During the day, I'm at a high school coaching full strength and conditioning. Then I have the gym in the afternoon and evening. When I'm not coaching before it was a university, or, it was all online. So I think you have to kind of have two things. So if you want strength and conditioning, you got to train adults during the day. If you're not training adults during the day, then you have to have a very, powerful online business component like what Greg is doing with Catalyst. Travis, our buddy, is never going to open a gym again. He's never. He's like, he hates that shit. You know why? Because when you're a diehard coach, you just want to coach. You're not really excited to do all this behind the scenes business stuff. But
well, if you do, you might as well you better get paid for it.
Yeah. So you got it.
I did a lot of, I mean, you know how it is, 80, 90% of the time, you're not coaching, right? You're doing all this shit.
A lot of business behind the scenes stuff.
I don't mind doing the other shit if I get paid. And I haven't really gotten paid as much as I'd like. I mean, as much as we're worth. We're never going to get paid what we're worth. But, it's just not enough for me to say, I'm gonna forego everything else for the rest of my life just to coach weightlifting. I'm not gonna do that. I think Greg did it best because, he built that online revenue, and his gym, he never made money on his gym. Never made money on his gym. Even at their height, they never made money. He has the performance menu, which is great. And so for me, like what I want to do to get back to coaching weightlifting the way I want to coach it is develop the other revenue streams that don't require four walls, right? So all the scalable income, because coaching isn't scalable, not in person. You can't.
No, and then it allows you to keep what I call low hassle, high profit. So for you, it would be some sort of online weightlifting team, weightlifting club, and then like a VIP access where people could FaceTime you and really get technique feedback from you. And, then there's other things like, where Greg moved to a kind of like a rural area. Cost of living is much less than LA, and New Jersey. What's his name? Dave, Cal Strength.
Oh, yeah, Dave Spix.
Dave was saying to me, he's like, Zach, I'd love to hear how you're getting all the athletes to show up. He's like, because we can't give it away, but we always sell out our NFL Combine. And so that's why I knew I had to get into the schools to train athletes because kids, even let's say, so I'm a quote unquote qualified strength coach, but let's say John Smith is one of the sport coaches running the weight room. That's where the kids are going to go because they need, it's like, but you know, it's tricky too. Even working at this high school, I'm still having to recruit kids to show up. They still want to go to Retro Fitness or LA Fitness. And I'll tell you, going back to what we first spoke about, Sean, it's very hard to squat and deadlift and bench the right way. Do it the right way. So what if you and your boys are squatting 315, but it's half reps? Then you're with me and it's 185, 205, 215. Now I'm the enemy. And so there's a lot of, like little tricky things. What a lot of strength coaches, not a lot, but strength coaches who said, you know what? If I just follow what I'm passionate about, I'm going to run this business to the ground. I need to build out this gym and do all adults and build an adult community and do some modified strength and conditioning. And those people do the best business-wise. So, and then the other option, like my other gym, is kind of like what you had at Raw. I'm inside of a martial arts building with jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing. So we train so many of those wrestlers, and we train a lot of their parents. So when the kids are training, we train the parents. And I think, for the online aspect, you need somebody who could do good quality camera work for you.
Yeah, so when we get off off air, I'll tell you what I got going on.
We're going to have to shut down in like 3 minutes because we have like an hour before Instagram shuts us down. So we'll reconnect after we close this. I'm going to be taking my dog for a walk, and I'll give you a call. But so next step, are you guys thinking right back to weightlifting, or are you going to start segueing into strength conditioning?
Business as usual in the four walls of my gym. I'm starting 2 new businesses. One with Don Ricci, who's on the call, focused on youth strength conditioning, delivered digitally, live, live coaching, done digitally. And I'm starting another business with Travis and Matt Bruce. From Brute Strength, and focusing more on strength and conditioning organizations. So,
what do you mean organizations?
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Oh, cool. Because at your level, guys like us, it's good. I like consulting with some of the bigger companies.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting too? I got a couple buddies in the NFL now. Everything's on lockdown.
Right.
So some of these guys are training with people in their garages and whatnot. And if you've seen Travis Mash always retweets like the videos of like some of the stuff, it's like, holy hell, like I can't believe these guys sign up for that. There's a lot of dangerous stuff out there.
Well, Matt Wenning, it was Wendler. Wendler, I read an article about by Wendler, and he talked about how even elite athletes are beginners in the weight room.
Yes, 100%.
And you got to treat them that way, right? So, and I read that. I was like, you know what, that is 100% correct. Because we've trained our share of elite level athletes, and you get them into the weight room, and they look like amateurs.
Yeah, I remember that hit me the hardest when I got to Lehigh. I was like, top 10 team in the country. We're going to power clean. We're going to deadlift. And I remember seeing a kid try to pull the bar, and his back went like, whoa. Yeah. I was like, holy hell. I started training them like middle school kids. Body weight, sleds, and unilateral kettlebell work.
You got to hold their torso right.
Look, if you're weak, you're weak. I could tell you to keep a flat back all day, but if you're weak, you can't do it.
If you would take one, like an elite level athlete, and give them Bill Starr's 5x5, they would benefit doing it right, full depth, good torso, good, good technique.
Such a great program.
Than any fancy machine or anything or back bullshit that they do. That's it. It's not like it's rocket science.
Look, when athletes come in here, you can see we do sleds, calisthenics, carries, and
I do that with my weightlifters.
Yeah.
do it all. I mean, it's all good. I mean, for a specific sport like weightlifting, there's times of the year where you have to snatch, clean, and jerk, and mostly, snatch, clean, and jerk, squat, things like that. But there's a lot of times of the year, especially at the elite level, when they're only competing once or twice a year. You can't snatch, clean, jerk heavy all year round.
Kills you.
So you gotta build a base. You gotta build. You have to build their durability and build their recovery. You do that through
Durability.
I ordered your. So like it's funny. I ordered. I've ordered a bunch of your stuff. I just ordered something, because I don't spend time thinking about GPP.
Yeah.
And my athletes have been with me long enough to where I can't give them the same shit all the time.
Yeah, so, you gotta I know you just want to get out of your own head.
Yeah.
To build some creativity. I'll do that a lot too. A lot. Yeah, I mean, it's just knowing how to kind of borrow things and just say, damn, dude, I used to do that, but it's like sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes we forget. You're caught up.
Read, constantly read and reread.
Reread
like
is the
stuff
ticket.
That you read 20 years ago, because you lived 20 years more. You have a different filter in which you look through that same information, and you can apply it differently.
I'm gonna try to dig up some of those Soviet review journals.
I'm gonna find mine, and I'll take a picture of it, and I'll send it to you.
It's funny how a lot of the Soviets if you find their books, it was always like pencil sketches.
Yeah, right. I mean, I would imagine because the publishing process was pretty rudimentary back then.
Yeah, the secrets of Soviet sport and fitness training was 74. Not, now the new one is secrets of Russian sport training, but yeah, so that's the newer one. But the original one is 74, and I read it in 2003, and I was like, man, 30 years ago, they're still ahead of what America's doing today. So, Sean, listen, I'm going to cut it out here.
Well, they study.
So Instagram doesn't shut it down. I will link up. I'm going to try to pull the audio from this. I don't know how good it'll come out, but I'm going to pull it. But for people listening, if I could get the audio, what's the way to reach out to you? Through the website, waxmansgym.com?
Yeah, waxmansgym.com is our website. We're also at Waxman's Gym on Instagram and Facebook. So look out. We have some new offerings. We're offering up this youth strength and conditioning. We haven't publicized it yet because we're still kind of working out. We just started 3 weeks ago, so we're just working out the details.
Yeah.
But look for that coming up, and we have online programming and training groups and whatever you guys need. We have.
Love it. Love it, man. All right, man. Thanks to everybody for listening. Strong Life on Instagram Live here with the Sean Waxman out on the West Coast. I mean, we spoke a lot. We got history. It was great. Yeah. Dan Lurie is probably very excited in his grave. This was great. So I'm going to give you a call in about 15 minutes, try to touch base with you.
All right, Chuck.
Thank you, and thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Zach.
Later, bro.